Even before the COVID-19 lockdown in year 2020, domestic violence was already an issue in Nigeria, with many publicized killings of both husbands and wives. However, during the lockdown, some reports say that occurrences grew to very alarming rates. Gender-based violence is still a major public health issue and could be said to be an epidemic on its own. The question is, when does this stop? Find out more on today's Moments Show with Pastor FUNKE. Thank you, studio audience, and welcome everyone to today's show. We have a wonderful program scheduled for us. Now, we were all horrified when Osinachi Nwachukwu, a prominent gospel musician in Nigeria, recently passed away. It is believed that her husband beat her to death, which has sparked outrage across the country. Since then, Christian leaders have come forward to vehemently condemn the evil deed. The question is, could it have been avoided? Why didn't help come in time for her and many other victims like her? Sadly, men are not spared, as male victims of domestic violence are also increasing in number. But do we know just how bad this problem is? What are the ways in which this abuse can be reduced, if not eradicated? With me to discuss this issue is a lovely woman. She's a writer, a marriage mentor, and counselor. She's passionate about getting people grounded in the Word of God and about building godly relationships and homes. Audience, please welcome a wonderful woman, my friend Uche Onyemola. All right. Wow, thank you so much for coming. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Yes, thank you so much. So, we're going to get right into the interviews now. Now, I knew you've been working with victims of domestic violence, and this scourge, I call it, has such a devastating effect on the victims. How did we get here? How did we get into this? Because that's not what's in the Bible, right?
Well, Pastor FUNKE, I would say we've always been here. It's something that has always existed in our societies. It's just that we have a culture of silence in Africa, in Nigeria, so it's been covered over the years. You'll find out that in our villages, there have been cases of wife beating, and it was an acceptable practice. Men were expected to discipline their wives if they erred, so there wasn't such an outcry about it. And we also had instances of wives poisoning their husbands. It's all cases of domestic violence, so it's always been there. It's just that with Christianity, with women's liberation, with modernity, with more and more women getting educated, less women are willing to accept that as the norm. And then with the advent of social media, more people are willing to come out. The culture of silence in Nigeria is gradually being eroded. People are more willing to speak out about what they are going through. So it looks like it's getting more prevalent, but really, we've always had it in our societies.
Wow. So does culture affect domestic violence, or is it culture blind? Is it culture blind? Does it happen in all cultures, or is African culture prone to encouraging or at least permitting it in some ways?
Well, in a way, domestic violence is culture blind. It cuts across cultures. You will find out that in societies like Asian society, you have honor killings, and the honor killings usually happen to women. You don't find honor killings and men being killed. Yes. So, and it happens in Europe, it happens in America, but I would say that our culture in Africa particularly encourages domestic violence, because the woman, for instance, it's seen as a little bit above a child who can be disciplined, and she's not seen as somebody who has rights. You see that there's been a lot of fights to even get women to begin to inherit from their parents. So all of that has fueled this domestic violence, a situation where men feel that they own the woman. And so if you either do as I say, or I make you do as I say. So culture has got a lot of role, has played a lot of role in domestic violence. The culture of silence, the culture of don't say that your husband is beating you, don't say that your wife is beating you, and you can't come home. Right. Because you've been married, we've collected a lot of things from you, bride price has been paid, gifts have been exchanged, you no longer have a stake in this family. You've, in quotes, been sold out.
You've been sold out.
There have been cases of domestic violence that started after the man had been subjected to so much in marrying the wife.
Yes.
And out of that anger, he begins to react that, after all, you now belong to me. I've spent so much.
I paid so much.
I did so much. You don't have a say in this home. So it's culture has really, really...
It's really... Yeah. So there's a question that popped into my mind just as you were talking. Can domestic violence be said to be involved even if there is no physical beating? In other words, if a man says, you can't go out, you can't work, you can't, you know, some of those things, can it be seen as domestic violence in some kind of ways, although there is no physical beating? You know, I mean, what do you think about that?
Yes, actually, I like to use the term domestic abuse because it's all encompassing. Most people focus on the physical aspects of domestic abuse. But the thing is, by the time domestic violence escalates to abuse, a lot of other abuses have already occurred. The physical is usually the last.
The last.
Yeah, because domestic violence or domestic abuse, as I would prefer, is about power and control.
Yes.
Whatever would give the perpetrator the control and the power will be used. So you have sexual abuse, financial abuse. We have instances, there was a particular case of a man who submitted his own bank account to his wife's office that her salary should be paid directly to him.
Oh, wow.
That's abuse.
Yes.
Yes, that's abuse.
That is abuse.
Yeah, because you are going to deprive her of every economic power, and then she will be at your mercy. There's psychological abuse when you constantly talk down on your partner, you strip them of their self-worth. That is domestic abuse. And usually is a wide spectrum. It starts, is insidious, it starts gradually, little put downs, little name callings here and there, a shove, a push, and when these other ones can no longer serve enough to control your partner, it escalates to violence. Right. It escalates to the beating, and if not checked, it usually ends in death.
In death.
Yeah.
I want to know, you're a pastor, right? Yes. You're in the ministry, so you know, you're in the church, you're part of us, right? Is the church doing enough to curtail this evil practice against men and women? Women especially, because we're the weaker sex, right? So please talk to us about that.
This is a loaded question, Pastor Funke.
Yes.
Very loaded question. And to start with, while domestic violence or domestic abuse cuts across both genders, it happens to men, it happens to women. Why it looks like we talk more about domestic abuse against women is that it's usually lethal. It's usually more dangerous, more deadly when it occurs from the men because of the sheer power that they have against the female.
Right.
As to whether the church is doing enough, no. The church isn't doing enough.
And I agree.
Yeah, the church isn't doing enough. For a long time, the church has buried her head in the sand. Like, if we don't address it, then it doesn't exist. And it might surprise you or not to know that a lot of domestic violence cases are in the church, where it shouldn't be.
Yes.
Where it shouldn't occur. But we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to address the elephants in the room. We don't want to admit that such exists. And in cases where we do talk about it, we don't have enough trained people to handle it. So we see people who are suffering, because both the victims and the perpetrators need help.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You need to help the victim. You need to help the perpetrator. So since we don't have the resources to deal with it, we want to pretend it does not exist. And in cases where we do address it, we don't have enough knowledge. We don't have enough people that have the information, the know-how to address it. So when someone comes, for instance, someone like Osinachi, when someone comes out to say, it takes a lot of courage for somebody to admit that they're suffering domestic abuse. Then when somebody comes, we try to handle domestic abuse like it's a marital issue. And then we start marital counseling. Marital counseling never works for domestic abuse. Usually it makes it worse.
Unbelievable. We're going to take a short break and we're going to continue this so important conversation on domestic abuse. We'll be right back, everybody. Okay, welcome back. Welcome back. We've been talking about domestic abuse, and I'm telling you, we really need the whole day to get into this situation. Now, before the break, we were talking about, you know, what the church has been doing. Now, why do victims find it so difficult to speak out? Now, I can understand men because of the male ego, you know, you don't want to say, but women, they don't tell their families, they don't tell their friends. People have to literally see scars on them. What is it that makes them be quiet?
Well, it's complicated.
Okay.
Domestic abuse is complicated. You need to understand the psychology of abuse to understand why victims don't speak out. Most perpetrators of abuse are charming, good, well-behaved, even-tempered people outside.
Whoa.
The abuse is usually reserved for behind closed doors. So the first thing is that the victim finds it difficult to confide in anybody because nobody believes them. Yeah. And then when they do summon up the courage to speak, the next question, which I consider one of the most stupid questions anybody can ask, is, what did you do?
What did you do? Like a child?
Yes. It's like asking a rape victim, what did you do? So the first thing is that it's difficult. Most people don't believe them. They have to try and explain and explain. And nobody wants to expose their marriage. They just want the abuse to stop. So for them to get you to believe them, they need to give so many instances they would rather not go into.
Wow.
So that is number one. Number two is the shame. The devil thrives in putting shame on people. That's why you find that even victims of rape who have done nothing to deserve it feel so ashamed. Same with domestic violence victims. There's this shame that shrouds them, like it's their fault. How do you come out to say that your partner, the love of your life, your husband, maybe a believer, maybe not, is beating you?
Could even be a pastor.
Could even be a pastor. Yes, is beating you. How do you say that? So the devil makes them feel ashamed for nothing that they need to be ashamed of. And then, of course, there's the stigma in our society. We are not a very sympathetic society. We are not a society that really understands with people. We are quite judgmental. So the question is usually, what did you do? You are not submissive. Your mouth is too sharp. You are triggering the abuse. You don't know how to love him, you know?
We blame them.
We blame, victim blaming indirectly. So it's difficult to speak out. And then when they do speak out, another reason why they don't speak out is the fear of the repercussion when they speak out. You confide in someone, you are going back home to meet the perpetrator. What do you think will happen? The abuse will escalate to get you to shut up. So until a victim, that's why when I say that marital counseling, where you put two of them together and begin to ask questions, the victim can't talk because whatever you say will be used against you
them
at home. So until you ensure their safety, they really cannot speak out. Finally, I think one other reason why they don't speak out is most victims do not want the marriage to end. They want the abuse to stop. So that's why they don't speak out.
Wow. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Can it stop?
It can.
Do people stop?
Yes.
That is so good to hear, to know.
Yes.
That is so good to know. So with proper help, perpetrators can stop.
Yes.
How do they overcome this?
It's a long road.
Wow, you said that like long.
Yes. It's a very long process. First, on the part of the victim, domestic abuse strips your humanity. It reduces you to less than human. It humiliates you. So it strips your self-worth. It makes you doubt your own sanity. It creates depression. It leads to anxiety. It creates suicidal thoughts.
Wow.
So the victim becomes almost less than human. And it will take a strong support system, professional help, to really, and the help of God, to overcome all that has been. Because, I mean, it's one thing for a stranger to be nasty to you or to abuse you. I may not see you another day. But that the person you sleep on the same bed with, who is supposed to be the closest person to you, who loves you, when they do that to you, I think is on another level. Yes, so it takes a great deal of work for victims to overcome that. And for domestic abuse to stop, it takes a lot of concerted efforts, therapy, professional help, and the willingness to put in the work. You know, just like alcoholics have to admit that they're alcoholics before they can be helped.
Yes.
The perpetrator of domestic violence has to admit that this is a personality flaw
that they have.
Yes.
Wow.
It's not about my wife not submitting. It's not about my husband not loving me. It's about how you choose to respond. Unfortunately, the success rate is little for intervention.
We only have a minute, but I've got to ask you this question. For those who aren't married, there are signs that people that could do this, and there are signs that a lady could see, a young lady or a single lady about to marry could see in a man that would say, watch out, that's a red flag, this man may become a wife beater.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes. In some cases, the red flags are obvious. You see a man that's, he's quick to put you down. You see a man that he responds with violence to other people, not to you. And you know, for young ladies, you think, oh, he's protecting me. He may turn against you. It looks like he's protecting you now, and he's slapping people left, right, and center. A day may come, he may turn against you.
It's a sign that he's a brawler.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, I'm sure all our single ladies are here. If he's beginning to put you down, he controls you, tells you, why are you doing this, by that? That's a red flag. Oh my God, where did time go? Time is not our friend today, but you've got to promise Reverend Uche to come back very, very soon, because you've been such a blessing to us today. Please help me just thank our wonderful guest. Thank you. Right back. We'll be right back for our segment. God bless you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you very much, studio audience. So now we're going straight away into our Ask segment, where our studio audience gets to ask me questions about this subject. And to guide us, as always, over to you, Ola.
Thank you very much, Pastor. We have a couple of questions from our in-house audience. Sonia, your question, please.
In situations where the victims are already married and then they have children who are very little, and in most cases they don't want to leave, maybe probably because of the kids, they're having lots of questions like, if I leave, who is going to take care of my children and all of that. So in a Christian marriage, what do you advise to those victims? What do they do? What's the first step they have to take to help them get rid of that domestic violence or the marriage in general?
All right. Very, very good question, Sonia. Look, everybody wants to stay, and a lot of victims stay because of their children, right? Now, if the situation has not gotten bad and the person is making an effort, they can, of course, make it work. They are going for counseling, they are doing therapy, and you see visible, and it's stopping, right? But if life is in danger, if they are beating them blue and black, there are some people, they get beat up until they pass out. That person, yes, you're Christians, but you need to save your life first. Your children will not die because you remove yourself from that situation. If you need to step out and save yourself, get the help and let the man get the help, then they need to do that. You know, don't leave, because if you die, the children will suffer more. The people need to understand that. Okay.
Thank you very much, Pastor. All right. Wealth.
Okay. Our guest told us a story of how a husband, took his account number to the wife's office, that her salary will be paid into his account. Yeah. And again, she gave us an instance when sometimes you try to share with people, and the first question they ask you is that, what did you do? Now, my question is there a genuine reason why a person should be abused?
There is no genuine reason. There is no genuine reason why a man should abuse his wife or a wife abuse her husband. God didn't bring them together to beat each other or, in fact, dominate each other. That's not God's plan and purpose for marriage. There is no reason. There is no justification. If somebody is abusing, is getting on your nerve or abusing you, you can move. If a wife is even physically trying to, manhandle her husband, the man can move. He can leave if he feels like he's getting upset. It's better for you to remove yourself from that environment for a while. Go for a walk, go for a drive, than lash out. The hardest one is the first time a person beats a person, right? The next time it will be easier. And it will be easier, and it will be easier until they kill them, literally. Okay? So there is no justification whatsoever. They are your husband or wife. They are not your child or slave.
Absolutely. You heard that right. There's no justification for domestic violence. All right, Mrs. Busayo.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this beautiful section. I just want to know, I want you to throw more light on what are the signs that young men can watch out for as red flags. For
young men now?
Yeah, before they get married, what are the signs that
they can see in a young lady? Okay, thank you so very much, Busayo. Look, a woman that is over-possessive, too clingy, that's a sign. You can't talk to anybody. Who's that? Where is that? Who is that person? When they are too possessive and they want to control you, who are you calling? Who's coming to your house? And where are you going? And who are you talking to? That's not a good sign. Control is the main objective of a perpetrator. Control. They want to control you. They want to control what you're doing, who you're talking to. So that's a very, very good sign. And if she's always abusing you, putting you down, and sharp to hit you, even when you're cutting, that's a sign for you to run. All right. We've had such a wonderful time with our studio audience, with our guest here today. It's been awesome. But please, if you are out there, you're already married, you're in it, your husband is abusing you, your wife is abusing you, please don't keep quiet. There is help available for you. You need not feel shame. You're not at fault. You did not do anything. There is no justification for anybody to abuse you. You can remove yourself from that situation and cope until when things come. If you are in that situation now, numbers are on the screen right now. You can call us. We can guide you. We can pray with you. We can help you. And we can direct you to where you will get counseling if you need professional emotional therapy or counseling. We can also pray with you, and we can share God's love with you. Jesus died. He came, he died to heal the brokenhearted. So please don't give up. And I pray for you right now that the balm of Gilead will heal you and touch you and preserve your life in the name of Jesus. All right. Now we're about to close this program. It's been an awesome time, but as they say, we have to close at some point. You know, I want to thank again our wonderful guest, Reverend Uche Onyeomola. Thank you so very much for being a part of it. You know, one of the things that really, really sets us apart from maybe other shows is that here we're so blessed. Every show we have a wonderful minstrel, someone that will come and minister in song. And today is no different. She's a lovely woman. She has a beautiful spirit, a young lady that's filled with the Spirit of God, a lover of Jesus, singer, songwriter, worship leader, Angela Akiwamide. Let's welcome her. And we will see you next time on The Moment Show with Pastor Funke. Bye for now as Angela takes us home. God bless you. I'm Pastor Funke. Bye.
We honor the great I am. Thank you because you're mighty. You're holy, God. For you are good, you are kind, you are more than these. Lost for words, trying to describe you. Elohim, Eloyon, Alish Elohim. Your greatness is all I see. There is nothing you can't